Hi folks, well here we go again with part 3 of my Scottish Odyssey. This time I've decided to carry on up the coast of the mainland and then come back down to the Western Isles for future part 4. Carrying on from where we left off and using the by now ubiquitous Calmac ferry, we head north from Tobermory across the Sand of Mull to Kilchone on Ardnamurchan. Kilchone stands at the mouth of Loch Sunart, which at 31 kilometres is the longest loch in the Highland region. The entire loch is a marine conservation area. Further up the loch is Glenborroudale. This shot was taken shortly after dawn from the tiny harbour there. One of the two fishing boats in the previous shot leaving in the morning light. From Kilchone, a narrow road leaves the coast and heads inland past innumerable small lochans towards the western end of the Ardnamurchan Peninsula. At the end of this fairly tortuous road is Ardnamurchan Lighthouse, sat on the most westerly point on the mainland of the British Isles. The lighthouse is 36 metres tall and was completed in 1849. Automated in 1988, the outbuildings and engine room are now open as a visitor centre. Visiting on another day, we were treated to this fogbow, also known as a white rainbow, a phenomenon seen on very bright days when the sea mist comes in. From Ardnamurchan Point, a coastal walk leads north to Sanna Bay. Typical of many Scottish coastal walks, the path is rarely flat, climbing up through heather moorland, then dropping back down to glorious beaches, as seen here, with the fogbow still following us. From Sanna Bay there are superb views out westward to the small isles, with a skewer of egg peeping up on the right, the cooling of rum in the centre, and Tiny Muck on the left. Retracing our steps to Salem, the road heads north across Ardnamurchan to rejoin the coast at Acharacal, from where a narrow road heads to Dorlin, passing on the way the old Shield Bridge. The attraction at Dorlin is Castle Cheerham. Sited on a tidal island in Loch Moidart, the castle controlled access to both Loch Moidart and Loch Shiel. Built in the 13th century, it was the traditional seat of Clan Ranald. Its checkered career came to an abrupt end in 1715, when the clan chief recaptured it and promptly torched it to keep it out of Hanoverian hands. It has been unoccupied ever since. Loch Moidart is 5 miles long. Access to the loch from the sea is shielded by a number of islands, the largest of which is Shona, seen here behind the much smaller Risca Island. Shona is now a holiday island owned by the Branson family. Along the south of Loch Moidart, from Castle Cheerham to Ardmollock, runs an interesting and fairly challenging path known as the Silver Walk. Very narrow, as you can see here, it clings to the wooded shoreline with steep drops in some places. Leaving Loch Moidart, the A861 runs north into Glenuig, where another narrow side road leads past Samalman Bay, as seen here, to the remote village of Smerissery. From the road end, a short but beautiful walk leads down to the coast and the once deserted village of Smerissery. A number of the houses have now been restored, but further down the coast to the south of the village are a couple of very lonely beaches with views out to the small islands as seen here. From Moidart, the road continues northward to join the A830 Fort William to Mallaig Road. From Mallaig to Arnisdale, with the exception of the dead-end road to Kinloch Horn, The next coastal road north is 15 miles away as the crow flies. However, to make that journey by road, the journey is over 100 miles via Fort William, Invergarry and Glen Shiel, passing on the way the Cluny Inn, seen here in one of my father's photos taken in the 1920s. The road regains the sea again at Shiel Bridge at the head of Loch Duick, from where another narrow road climbs steeply over the Mamrattigan to Glenelg. This shot from the summit of the pass was taken looking out over Loch Duick to the Five Sisters of Kintail. From the summit of the Mamrattigan, an old military road descends along Glenmore to Glenelg on the Sound of Sleat. Another shot of Glenelg, I should say. Peeping out to the left of the trees are the ruins of Bernera Barracks, built in 1717 as part of the British campaign to subdue the local clans after the 1715 uprising. The barracks would come into their own again during the rising of 1745, when it was used to control the Kylereer crossing to Skye. A stormy day along the Sound of Sleat, looking out from Glenelg over to Skye. From Glenelg, the road runs south past Sandaig, where Gavin Maxwell wrote Ring of Bright Water, to the tiny communities at Arnisdale and Corran. This is the Cayley House, a heritage centre at Corran. Ben Screel, seen here, is one of Scotland's Munro and towers over Arnisdale Bay. A great viewpoint from its summit, but an extremely steep climb to get up there. Reflections in the Arnisdale River as it enters Loch Hourn, with the rough bows of Knoydart on the far side of the loch, and the cooling of Skye in the distance. Knoydart is only accessible by sea or a long walk from Kinloch Hourn. Looking south across Loch Hourn to Latherven and Lunaven, this is the start of the herring path, which follows the loch to its narrow point. Loch Hourn is basically in two parts, the wide outer loch ending at a narrow neck of land opposite Glenbarrisdale, from where it turns east into the inner loch, which culminates at Kinloch Hourn. Early in the 19th century, at the height of the herring boom, when Loch Hourn was full of boats, trying to land their catches, this ingenious path was laid along the shores of the loch, in some places carved into steep-sided shoreline. However, the path is now in such a poor state it makes for very rough and slow walking. The loch turns left into the inner loch at the two islands seen here in front of Glenbarrisdale. Returning back past Glenelg and over the Mamrattigan, the coastal road then follows Loch Duick, past Allendon Castle to reach Kyle of Loch Alsh, before it turns north, passes Plockton and Stromferry to Loch Carron. This is Loch Carron seen from North Strome. From here, it is possible by coastal, forest and hill track to walk over to Achentrade on Loch Kissorn. Here the views to the hills of Applecross, Scourahurahan on the left and Ben Varn on the right. The whitewashed houses at Ardnamurchan reflected in Loch Kissorn. Our home for the week was the third cottage in from the left in 2014. From Kissorn, to regain the coast, you must first scale the Bealach na Bar, the Pass of the Cattle. This road has the steepest ascent of any road in the UK, rising to 2,054 foot above sea level, and you drive every inch of that. The road was built in 1822 and is a series of very tight twisting hairpins, often used for sporting events. I love this road and have driven it many times just for fun. even on one occasion turning back and coming up it a second time. The road descends from its summit back down to the coast at Applecross and its famous whitewashed inn. One arm goes south for a short way to Toscaig and a short coastal walk to the abandoned village of Colligilly, seen here, with Skye and Rarsay in the background. Once only accessible by boat, Applecross was finally linked to the outside world in 1922, and then only by the notorious gravel road across the Bealach na Bar. Finally, that road was tarmacked in the 1950s. However, it wasn't until 1975 that another road was finally completed around the coast to Shieldaig on Loch Torridon, seen here from this popular red-roofed shieling. From Shieldaig, the road follows the shore of Loch Torridon round to Inveralligan and this glorious lochside walk. This is Corrie Church beneath Benalligan. Since this photograph, the church has been bought by an American and converted into an ultra-modern dwelling, complete with infinity pool. I'll leave you to ponder the rights or wrongs of that desecration. The road leaves the loch at Inveralligan and crosses the moorland before descending again to Lower Diabaig and this much photographed wreck. Lower Diabaig is the end of the road for cars, so drivers will have to make the 45-mile journey to Redpoint by circumnavigating Benay, a simple foot journey from here of about only 8 miles. Here we are at Redpoint, situated at the very mouth of Loch Torridon, with superb views looking back down the loch to Lower Diabaig. This is the abandoned salmon fishing station at Redpoint. The salmon was strung up onto the wires between the two posts seen here. This superbly engineered footpath follows the coast south past the Bothy at Craig, which at one time belonged to the SYHA, back to Lower Diabaig. The road continues north past Pooleu and Gairloch to Granard Bay, seen here with one of Scotland's finest hills, Benchellach, in the distance. During the Second World War, Granard Island in the bay was the scene of biological testing for anthrax. The island was deemed too dangerous to be opened until the 1990s. A narrow side road follows up the west side of Granard Bay to the hamlet of Mellanudrigal and another fine beach. From the beach, a short coastal walk can be made past some great viewpoints. This one looks back towards Anchellach and the peaks of the great wilderness of Wester Ross. Continuing north, the road follows the shores of Little Loch Broom to Dundonald. From nearby Corriehally, a hill track gives access to the Fisherfield Forest, known to walkers as the Great Wilderness. From here, a number of ancient rights-of-way fan out in all directions. All are serious undertakings of over 15 miles through some of the most remote country in the UK. Here the path is contouring Sail Leath, an outlier of Anchellach, which translates as the Forge. Dropping down from the previous photo into Strath na Silga, with Ben Gerag Moor and Ben Gerag Beg in the distance. This is the famous Cheneval Bothy, run by the Mountain Bothies Association. These two guys were on a working party and were replacing the staircase up to the upper floor of the bothy. They carried the staircase in over the same footpath we had walked. Following the Strath upstream leads to Acnegie, a deserted estate cottage, now used as a makeshift bothy. From here a good track leads back to Corryhally, the other side of Sale Leath and Anchelac in the background. From Dundonald the road leads inland again, circling round to regain the sea at Loch Broom and eventually Ullapool. Thought you might like to see the main street as it was in the early 1920s instead of a current shot. This was taken by my father, and his is the car in the distance. From Ullapool, the main road barely touches the coastline until reaching Kylescoo. However, from Drumrooney, a narrow road leads west towards the coast at Ackletibury. Along this narrow most eyes turn towards the tiny rugged peak of Stack Polly. However, to the south are the hills of Keegak. Benmore Keegak is seen here peeping up on the very left, while a steep buttress in the centre is the peak of the Fiddler. I won't even try to pronounce the Gaelic name for this peak. The road here used to be quiet until the creation in 2015 of the Scottish Coast 500, something many locals resent as the increase in traffic, and also on the Bealach na Bar we saw earlier, has been tremendous, to say nothing about those who try to treat it as a race. From Ackletibury, the tortuous road leads north past Inverkirkaig to the busy little port of Loch Inver, a popular starting point for some of the remoter hills of Assynt. This shot, taken near Glencanisp Lodge, shows two of them, Canisp on the left and Sullivan between the uprights of the bridges. This is another Mounting Bothies Association bothy, Suliag, convenient for both Canisp in the background and also Sullivan. A closer shot of Canisp with its summit shrouded by cloud. And a more intimate shot of Sullivan. I've tried to climb this peak on 3 occasions, but each time the weather has come in and the rain has started to fall. I can't honestly see the point at my age of climbing up this, and I can't get a picture from the top. From Loch Inver to Ullapool, a winding road and very narrow, takes us along what is known as the Drumbeg Loop, passing on the way the lighthouse at the point of Store. Travelling this road is not for the impatient. Back along the main road, this was taken from the grounds of Ullapool House, where we have stayed in a tiny converted shieling many times, and with a view like this, who wouldn't? These are just two of many shots that I've taken of the loch over the years. This one in the early morning, and this one in late evening. Note the Glencool bothy on the far shoreline. This is the bridge over the loch at Kylescoo. The hill in the background is Quinag, another fine day out on the hills. One of the other attractions of Loch Glencool is that the highest waterfall in the UK is at its head. This is East Acul Aluan, Falls of the Beautiful Tresses, with its sheer drop of 660 foot. The easy way to see the falls is to take the motor vessel Statesman from Kylescoo. There are, however, a few other ways to get there. The easiest is to walk from the top of the pass above Ullapool, a 6-mile rough walk, but even then, as you're above the falls, you cannot actually see them. Another way is to perhaps talk nicely to the captain of the pleasure boat, who might just drop you off and pick you up from the head of the loch. Here we are being picked up. Far easier than being dropped off, jumping that final step onto the slippery seaweed with a camera-laden rucksack is not recommended. Another shot of Glencool from a different aspect, this time from across Loch Glendu. The two lochs form the shape of a letter Y. Dramatic light at Loch Glendu. The sloping rock formation on the far shore, which is a peninsula between Glencool and Glendu, is part of the Moyne Thrust, where older rocks have been thrust up over the top of newer ones. This is the head of Loch Glendu with its bothy on the left. A path leads from here along the slopes in the previous picture to where we were being put off at Glencool Bothy, yet another way of reaching the waterfall. From Kyleskew the road continues north past Skourie to Laxford Bridge, on one of Scotland's famous salmon rivers. The River Laxford is only 3.5 miles long, running from Loch Stack to join the sea at Loch Laxford. Here we are at the mouth of the river, with Arkle in the background and this tiny fishing bothy. Like most bothies, it's festooned with old alcohol bottles. Another shot of Arkle and its shattered quartzite ridge, one of my favourite hills, this time seen from the boathouse on Loch Stack. Hidden behind Arkle to its north is its twin, Foynarven, seen here from the slopes of Arkle. A few miles north from Laxford Bridge, the road arrives at Rickenick and Loch Inchard, where this narrow road heads off to the busy harbour at Kinlochbervie. Loch Inchard, seen here from Badcall, cuts deep inland with the hills of the Ray Forest in the distance. Further down the road at Blairmore, a track leads north across the moorland to Sandwood Bay. The distance without any detours is a round trip of 8 miles. For all that effort, you get to see Scotland's most beautiful, and sometimes, if you're lucky, deserted beaches. Here we are dropping down to Sandwood Loch at the head of the beach. The deserted and reputedly haunted Sandwood Cottage. A squall coming in across Sandwood Bay with Cape Wrath in the distance, its lighthouse just visible. Another day, another stormy shot from a previous visit. This time we're looking southwest across the bay to Ambucai, a sea stack at the end of the bay. Back along the Rain Road and heading north towards the tidal Kyle of Durness. This rainbow was taken from the car looking across the Kyle towards the wilderness south of Cape Wrath. The road north finally ends at Durness, or more precisely Balnakeil Bay. The bay is surrounded by vast areas of sand dunes which culminate at Faraid Head. Here in this panorama we're looking back across the bay to Durness. Looking west across Balnakeil Bay towards Cape Wrath. Sadly, although I've been there twice, I have no photographs nearer than this. This is the end of our journey at Faraid Head. The tiny dot on the top of the cliffs is a radar station, which gives you some idea of the scale of the cliffs. Well, that's it, folks. Next part of the journey involves returning to Ullapool and once again a Calmac ferry out to the Outer Hebrides. Good night.